Everybody. So my entire career has been on the business side, primarily because when you don't want to see me on a stage, honestly, I cannot act, I can't sing, but I can do business. And I actually I'm currently the director of production and operations at the Sundance Institute, but I just started there in January. So my plethora of expertise at Sundance is limited. I still have to do my first official festival, which is coming up in January. But for the last 26 years, I've been working in Orlando for the Walt Disney Company at Walt Disney World. And specifically, my last role was as a producer at Disney Live Entertainment. So they support all of the events, show production, event production, facility. We built facilities. It literally, I had no idea what I'd be working on because it's really on a project basis. So they say, are you available to work on this project timeline? Budget, and you go sure, and half the time you don't even know what it is, and then you find out what it is and you go, oh man. But so this presentation, what I thought I would do, because I know when I went to school, I have an arts management degree. So when I went to school back in the 90s, there weren't a whole lot of arts management degrees. In fact, I wanted to be an accountant, and I have an associate's in accounting too, which has come in handy, by the way. There wasn't a whole lot of opportunities to go into arts management. And I know that unless you have a focused entertainment management curriculum, there's some information that I just wanted to show you how we go through the entertainment production process. Sorry, I'm gonna just bump off to my first slide. So event and show production it's a very generic term. It encompasses a lot of things, from festivals, which is what I'm currently working on with Sundance, with the film festival. Also just other examples are other things that I've worked on is the Epcot Food and Wine Festival. Epcot also had they have a flower and garden festival. It's literally the theme park of festivals. So I would be responsible for the entertainment aspects of it, because there's also a food element. There's also anything that's entertainment that would be entertaining to guests, that my team would take care of that. Press events, especially at Disney, there's new attractions, new shows, new everything that's constantly being introduced. And Disney would put together, for lack of a better term, a wine and dine weekend for the press, where they would just show all of their new things. So within that weekend, we're not only showing them the new attraction, new whatever, new offering, we would also be doing special dinners, themed dinners. We would be doing all these other little events within the weekend that wasn't just, hi press, go on this attraction and enjoy yourself. Some of it, the last big press event that I worked on was the introduction of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, which was the new land that they had at Walt Disney World. They had it in California too. And with that one, they went all out. They brought in drones that replicated TIE fighters in the distance. There was this audio system that was brought in that literally vibrated that whole section of the park. They went all out. I mean, there's a celebrity aspect in some of these, but so there's a lot of pieces and parts that really go into doing any kind of an event. And that's anything from a small little ribbon cutting all the way to something as introducing a new section of the park. So that's one thing. Show production. This is literally developing a show on a stage. I've done quite a few of those as well, and that's from concept all the way to opening. So huge, long process. It can take anywhere from 2 to 3 years to get through the whole process. And a couple of the ones, the last project I worked on was bringing Phantasmic, which is a nighttime spectacular, bringing that back to the park because it had to shut down with COVID. The whole park shut down. So we actually, just to give you an idea, the reopening had a facility rehab in addition to doing a new section of the show. It's only 5 minutes of maybe the 30 minutes that you see if you were to attend the show. Pyrotechnics, fire on water, fountains, we had hydraulic lifts, we had, I mean, it's a very involved show where every night over 100 people, it takes 100 people, both performers and technicians, to actually do the show itself. You'll get a little sneak peek into that a little later. And then sometimes we just build facilities, theaters. We have a lot of characters at Walt Disney World. So we have to build their meet and greet locations, and it has to be completely themed to the character that's doing the meet and greet. So there's some facility work that we do. And then special events. That's just an event, a one-stop shop event that could be a marketing event. It could be a convention. It could be there are so many places that you can go in production with entertainment. So wanted to just also kind of really let you know that the process in going through an entertainment production, whether it's any of those, all of the ones I just mentioned have to go through this. So there's 3 primary elements to a production, bless you. And this has to happen, and all of these have to be in alignment before you can even go with your team. And that's scope, schedule, and budget. So first and foremost, you need to understand the limitations, the elements, the creative, all of those elements you have to understand, and really, it really drives the project, where it's going to be, what venue it's going to be, when they want to open it, and from a creative standpoint, what are the performers, what is the show flow of an event, what are the elements of the event. So first you really need to understand scope, and then the next two kind of go simultaneously together. It's the schedule and the budget. So I find that if you know the elements in the scope, the schedule is the best way to go next, because it allows you to take lighting, audio, video, all of the special, the specific, what's the word I'm looking for? The specific technical elements and scenic, casting. There's a timeline for everyone, and you really need to figure out what that timeline is, because that can dictate budget. If it takes a certain amount of time to get done what the scope is dictating, then it will tell you how much labor you need to get you from point A to point B. It also is an opportunity for you to just put a dollar value, because sometimes you have to go back to the scope once you do the schedule and budget, because it's either way too much money, because creative people like to think big, and sometimes the budget doesn't accommodate that. And so you have to go back and work as a team and collaborate, figure out what all the priorities are, scale down if needed, to get you to your desired schedule and budget. So this is a process unto itself, but the project can't move forward until this is complete and bought off. And then production life cycle. This is the life cycle that every single production goes to. Again, if it's just a simple little ribbon cutting, all the way to some show extravaganza that you do. So you've got the scope, schedule, and budget locked. You're all set. You're ready to jump. So now you have to really dive into that creative and write a script, write a show flow. You're not doing this. Obviously, your creative teams are doing this, and really diving deep into what are the specific elements. Once you have those specific elements, then you go into design and feasibility. Your lighting team is going to determine, I need to make a purchase of these lights to do this special effect. Your pyro team is going to test product to make sure it has the effect that the creative team needs. Your costume designs are happening here. Your what other? There's set design. There's a lot of design aspects that are happening in this process, but it's also feasibility. Sometimes there's this wacky idea that creative teams may have, and you go, we think we can do it, but we might have to do some feasibility testing to confirm that, or we need to do some feasibility testing to even confirm that it can happen within budget and schedule as well. So sometimes there's another kind of maybe just a relook at certain things, and it might need to be readjusted. Then we go into fabrication. This is when costumes are actually go out to vendors for fabricating. It's when set pieces go out. If there's any purchases for audio or lighting, this is when they're getting their purchases done and getting them delivered. This is when all the pieces and parts are starting to come together. And then they install. You have to install, whether it's a temporary one-day event or a long-term event or a permanent install. There's a huge amount of work that goes into installing it the way it was designed, and then also programming it. There's a lot of technical that needs to happen, and working with the show director or the creative team to make sure that their vision is still being accommodated and adjusted if needed. While this is happening, there's also casting going on. So we have to do auditions. We have to get people in to learn the basic choreography of whatever they're learning. All of that is happening somewhere between fabrication, installation, somewhere else in a rehearsal room somewhere. But then eventually we get everybody together. And this is where we start putting lights and all the elements start coming together during the rehearsal period. And it really, truly is a point where there's adjustments happening day to day. Communication is so important, because you can make one little tweak in lighting and it affects somebody else. So the rehearsals are really, truly, it takes a lot, and especially with something like Fantasmic, where we have up to, like, I think it's about 60 people on the stage, and there's a lot of safety pieces there. Again, fire, pyro, there's lifts going up and down, hydraulic lifts. There are people that they're stunts. There's all sorts of things going on. All of that rehearsal process for us lasted about 3 months, just to give you an idea. Then you open and you cross your fingers that all that hard work you've done is wonderfully received by everybody. But you are also, once you open, you have an opportunity to make some adjustments if this is a long-term thing. If it's a one-off, you get one shot. So you really have to be super organized and really make sure that everybody understands their role and that they're doing it to the best of their ability. And then there's this thing called closeout, and it doesn't matter if it's something that goes on in perpetuity for you still have to close it out, because at some point production just says, all right, operations, this is your baby now. You take it into the world, and you end up making sure that this happens as it was intended and as it was written for the life of the offering. So this is really, truly, in a nutshell, what I do, very high level. This could be probably a full semester class, because there's so many pieces and parts to this. But I wanted to kind of show you a piece of Fantasmic, the last project that I worked on. And what I want you to do, I'm going to give you a little bit of background. So as I mentioned before, there was a huge facility piece. This was a project that was supposed to open in May of 2022. It opened November 3rd, 2022. So it was something that we were in a constant state of communication. We had key learnings every day. It was a venue that was already in operation for at least 15 years before COVID hit and it shut down. Because it shut down, there's a moat that goes around an island, and that moat was drained. We had a lot of key learnings once we started filling it back up again, just like you would a pool that's had water taken out of it. But also there was we changed out all the lighting, we changed out all the audio. There was some video upgrades that we did. So that was just before, that doesn't even include all that casting that had to happen, or recasting, because over the course of 2 years, we also lost a lot of people. They moved out, like anywhere else. They either moved out, moved in. There was a lot of change. So while all that was happening, we also decided that we were going to change. The show is modular. It kind of has like 5 sections within it that makes one big show. They decided, hey, we don't want to do this Pocahontas section. We want you to do a hero section that involves many Disney heroes. So we had to go through this whole entire process for that 5 minutes of show. And then we had to cast it, we had to choreograph it, we had to light it, we had props that were specific to this section. So this whole process from start to finish, when I started and ended, was about 3 years for 5 minutes of production. So again, there were a lot of other things going on at that time as well. There was the facility, there was getting the rest of the show up and running as well, what was more of the legacy piece. So what you're going to see is just that 5 minutes. And when you watch it, look at all the pieces and parts that go into just this 5 minutes. And we'll have a little conversation when it's done. And we'll just kind of talk through because again, there were a lot of challenges just because of just the nature of what we had to do. But I hope this works nicely. Enjoy this video. I also am going to say that this was recorded, I think, on opening night. So the reactions from the audience, I love them, but they're very enthusiastic because people missed this show for about 3 years. So, all right, let's see.
Hey, what's going on? I could use a little help. Hello?
What I love most about music is the water's always changing, always flowing. But people, I guess, can't live like that. We all must pay a price. To be safe, we lose our chance of ever knowing what's around the river bend. Waiting just around the river bend.
What you see now is video.
I think I'll take a stroll around the block. Hey, he's over there. Come on, this way. Let's go. Here it goes. Get it from my head and wish me happy landing. All I gotta do is jump. We find out there's so much more to me.
Show yourself. Here I come so far. You are the answer I waited for all of my life. Oh, show yourself. Let me see who you Oh, my darling, homeward bound. Show yourself. I am the daughter of the village chief. We are descended from voyagers who found a way across the world. They call me, and the call is enough. Hear it all that's inside me. It's like the tide, always walking and rising. I will carry you here in my heart. You remind me that come what may, I know the way. I am the way.
5 minutes, that's all it was.
That was a lot.
So, yeah, so there's a lot of pieces and parts in just that 5 minutes. Yeah,
So it took you 3 years to build this, right?
okay, it took 3 years to do the whole project. Anywhere, the facility, bringing the facility back because there were a lot of upgrades. As I mentioned before, there was about 15 years of doing that show every night, 2 to 3 times a night. There's a lot of wear and tear that happens on the lifts, the pyrotechnics. There's a lot of moving pieces in this. So there was the facility, there was the 5 minutes, but then it was bringing back the other 25 minutes of the show as well, where we did some I guess we did some just minor adjustments and getting new props or something like that made because the other ones were just in sore shape. But yeah, it took 3 minutes. I say it's that 5 minutes, but there's a lot more that goes into that.
Yeah, I was just curious, like, with the amount of time that these projects take to build, is what are the results that you get from these projects really worth the time and money that is invested? Because to me, it just sounds so interesting that we for this long time and then something happens so instant. But I'm sure they are greater gain. So I'm just curious to know about that part.
Well, we get immediate feedback once this goes out into the ether. And I mean, you've heard it. Now, this was extreme. I think this was probably the first show. And so this was the first time a lot of these people were seeing something brand new. And Disney fans are insane. And I mean this in the best way possible. They show their appreciation. They also make sure we're aware of things they don't like as well. Let me just so you don't have to like it. I mean, Mickey's cute and all, but there we go. But yeah, so we get an immediate like reaction on how well or how well we didn't do, and you really don't know where you're going to be until you really see that reaction from people. But it is a lot of hard work. It's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. But I'm just curious if you guys noticed just some of the elements that we had to consider when just doing this 5 minutes, which was all new. Everything else wasn't new. So what did you see as things, or hear as things that we probably needed to work on that probably had to go through all of those production processes?
I will say like when it was like I can't remember like it was Pocahontas or something. They were with the sticks, and then there was like this animation, and the same movement that the actor made was the same movement that he shows.
So we actually we wanted to make sure that all of these pieces, because there's a lot of ethnicity in all the heroes that were represented, with the Mulan section in particular. We actually went and found, and our performers went through very kung fu training, and there was a kung fu place that's in Orlando that they actually, their first day of training was there. And ironically enough, the woman, her name is Mimi Chan, her father is the Grand Master, and she was actually the Mulan muse for the animators, which we love the story that went along with that. But she had a lot of insight, and we made that as authentic as we possibly could with a Cliff Notes version of Kung Fu training that these folks had to go through. So authenticity was definitely, it was our primary goal, to make sure all of those heroes were accurately represented with their choreography, with their look, with their movement. But yeah, we definitely did coordinate Mulan with the video that you saw in the movie, so you can bring those two together. And not only that, just recognize her as a hero as well. Yeah.
Well, you said that you drained the moat. When I saw those fountains, I was like, well, how much of that had to be replaced at the time when you drained the moat?
Almost all of them.
Yeah.
Almost, that actually was one of the reasons it took us so long, to both supply chain issues, because as we all know, right after COVID, it was hard to get anything. So but those fountains were in really bad shape once we filled the moat and started putting water through them. So we had to replace, I think there were over 200 spouts for those fountains. So yeah, that one and the fire that you didn't see, that's in close to the finale. There's a dragon that shoots fire at Mickey Mouse, and it hits the water, and the whole entire moat catches fire. That was a huge undertaking when the facility was down for it was probably dry for about 2 years. And there were all these things. And I'm telling you right now, as a producer, I'm not real in tune with how to fix a gas or how to do fountains. But my role as a producer is to lean on all my subject matter experts, which are my lighting, and in some cases construction folks when we were dealing with facility upgrades. It's really my job as a producer is making sure the work is getting done, but also that everybody's communicating and we're going into this holding hands and we all agree on the route that we're going to take. It's a lot of relationship skills, not only not having the knowledge base as well. And when you walk out of something like Fantasmic, it's amazing when you go back and go, oh, I totally could go fix a gas. No, I couldn't fix a gas leak, but you walk out of these projects having no idea what you're getting into, but you walk out with such a huge knowledge base. And you're in a constant state, bringing this back to business, not only with scope, schedule, and you're in a constant state of assessing finances. You're in a constant state of determining, do I have to go ask for money or do I have to go cut this nice to have in here as well? You're always in a moment of assessing what the project is, where it is, how far can we go? Do we have the time to do it? In the case of this specific project, we were very smart in, Disney has a convention for the Disney fans every year. It's called D23. And every D23, they make all the announcements of everything that's coming in the next year. Well, we were told that they were going to announce Fantasmic. This was November. We believed that we were going to open in May. We begged and pleaded and said, hey, can you just say that we'll be opening in summer to late 2023? And if we open up early, it's a surprise and delight and everybody will love it. They actually listened to us, thank goodness, because what it did is it just gave us a little bit of leeway for all those unknowns that we inevitably ran into. But again, it's all just working with executive leadership, getting their buy-in. It's constantly showing them it's pivot. It's a constant state of pivot because you have to go, okay, we ran into this problem and here's a way we can fix it, or we can go in this direction. Tell me which way you'd prefer. And this was quite a beast to really kind of put up. But again, we did great. Yep.
I imagine the supply chain issues after COVID also drove your cost up. How did you manage your budget with that situation?
Our show budget, perfect. We didn't have any issues with that. The facility budget did go quite over, primarily because of the delays and the rising costs. But the facility work actually was a base to get the show up and running, even if we didn't have a new section. So with that was another thing. There's a lot of teams that work together to do a show like this. There's the facility asset management team, and those are the folks that really take care of the facility systems, meaning the water and the gas. But when it comes to my team takes care of all the entertainment systems. So the lifts, the lighting, the audio, the video, the fountains those were shared because they were in essence a video screen in addition to being dancing waters as well. So it really takes a village to do something like that. So, but yes, the facility part did go over budget, but with approvals. But I'm happy to say on the show and production side, we were spot on, but barely, but we were right there. But yeah, any other? Yeah.
As well as curiosity, with that show, with all that animation, it all seemed a little bit digital in a way. Did you make it? Was that like people actually had the pirates performing those animations, or it was more like a hologram or something?
No, those are actually projections. It's digital. When the venue first opened in I think it was the early 90s, I think. When the venue first opened, that was actually filmed. It went through a projector and it was filmed. Probably about 10 years in, they switched over to digital. And then what we did is we inserted our section. Now, that's another thing with Disney that's very interesting. You've got 5 intellectual properties in that 5 minutes. There's Mulan, Pocahontas, Aladdin, Moana, and Elsa. Those are 5 approvals we had to get, and we had to work with the studios. And in the case of all of them but Elsa, it all goes to Disney Animation Studios. Elsa and the Frozen chain is another area where you have to get approvals, and it's everything from costumes and the color and the design, that just the approvals alone to get each section done before we could even go into that fabrication phase was immense, because we can't go one step further until we get the blessing from the studio or the creative team to get to that point. But the video is another piece of the puzzle, because also, to go with the video, all that music, we went into a studio in Nashville and recorded it with the live orchestra. So those arrangements had to get approved. Every piece of everything has to be approved, especially with Disney. They're very protective of their IP. But internally, I, as somebody who worked for Disney, I can't just go out and go, hey, I want Elsa to do a cartwheel and I want her to wear something that Mickey Mouse would wear. I don't know why you would do that, but that would probably never ever get approved, because there's mixing of IP, intellectual property. And so the whole process requires every little bit has to be approved before we can take the next step. So
So of course, doing events, shows, and all that is like good things, bad things, stressing things, of course. But working for Disney, it can be harder because people expect something that is very good and goes fluently and pretty good, or it can be easier because you have like better, like a lot of staff or better people that know probably more, you know, has like I don't know, like show and stuff and facility or all that. So it's easier, harder, kind of both.
yes, to all. So Disney being a corporate entertainment company, their resources are definitely, most of them are internal. So you're calling, I mean, you may have to call California, but you're still calling within the company. So the resources are great, and I mean that also with the budget, but the expectations are probably one of the toughest things that you'll ever have to meet. And you may not even meet them because expectations are even further than what you think they are. And honestly, especially with today in social media, word gets out very, very quickly. Once something new's out there, everybody's reviewing it, everybody has an opinion, and that can also like influence any future changes, or, oh, we have to shut this thing down and just do a revisit of creative or technical or whatever it may be. So you're in a constant state of just, but yes, it look, if I'm doing my job right, that looked easy. But honestly, that was probably one of the most difficult projects I've ever worked on. And it was incredibly stressful. We had to meet executive expectations, not just the public. So it's easier in some aspects, but it's a whole lot more difficult than others. And you're still being held to a budget and a schedule. And in most projects at Disney, you don't get to dictate the schedule. You've got the end date. We're opening on this day. Tell me how much you can get done, and it better be a lot by this date. So it's a lot of that. Yep.
Even with the internal resources, they're probably all working on multiple projects at one time.
Yep.
So they can't just drop one project and go over to yours, you've got to fit into their schedule.
It's a constant state of juggling, and sometimes it's priorities. If there is a significant, like, if there is something significant that has to work on now, that's holding up every single thing, I have to go talk to another producer and say, I know you need this person tonight. I really need them. Can we find a way to make this work? Or sometimes it's this other project just needs somebody to fill in, and I can take the person that's assigned to my project to work on it. But no, it's not just this project, because I probably, in the course of those 3 years, I probably had another 10 to 12 projects that I was working on simultaneously. So it's a constant juggle of priorities. And sometimes you just get surprised and you go, oh, that looks like that's gonna be today's priority, because there's another gas leak. I don't know, I totally made that up, but yeah, it's very stressful. It's time management, it's budget management, it's people management, it's resource management, it's relationship management. It's a lot of things, and it's hard. But again, working for a not-for-profit now, which is Sundance, I miss some of the resources that I had at Disney, but at the same time, it's a new place, which is new challenges, all that other fun stuff. Yeah.
With all that experience you've had, which you are watching, especially at the network, what do you think AI is going to do for the entertainment industry?
That's a good question. And it's going to be interesting to see what the industry will let AI do. As you can see, there's a lot of striking going on with writers, and SAG-AFTRA still outstanding. That is a subject of everything right now, because I think it could influence it. I hope that it's more of an influence than it is a takeover, because I don't think, I have a lot of writer friends, I have a lot of actor friends, I have a lot of and you can't match in-person talent and real talent with what an AI can produce. But I think there might be some efficiencies that AI can probably provide. But how it's going to be interesting to see how much the industry allows AI to come in. It'll come in either way. I mean, it's hard to tell some things that are being produced by AI right now, whether they're real or they're not, that I'm sure it'll sneak in there, but I'm really hoping that it would influence and not necessarily take over. Because it's not going to be real. And that's the one thing that Disney does that I love, and Sundance does it as well. It's emotion. You've got to feel it, and it's hard for AI to replicate emotion. And that is a lot of what we do in entertainment, and that's where the connection is with the emotion. So fingers crossed, we can find a happy medium where we can all play together.
I think it comes down to that Disney magic, right?
Mhm.
AI can't create the magic, like you're saying.
It is, and it's hard to create that magic, and we've got very talented creative directors that help us with creating the magic. They know what those audience members feel and how to get that feeling to them, so that they do connect either with the characters, with the story, with whatever it may be that we're presenting.
It's also affected by things like other stakeholders. I understand that the public company, right? So it means that a lot more stakeholders, including investors, who might be like, why aren't you doing anything to do this?
That's one of the hard parts working for Disney is it's not even investors. Investors, when you're in a company of over 100,000 people, you don't necessarily have one investor that's like, why are you spending this kind of money on one project? I'm going to let Bob Iger take care of that part, but we have a lot of stakeholders internally and externally that we all have to work together. We all have to be on the same page. So that is hard because everybody's got their own agendas. Everybody's got their own priorities. Everybody's got all of that. And that's really where the challenge comes in. But yeah, fortunately, I probably have to deal more with investors at Sundance because it's a much smaller company than I would at Disney. Yeah.
Why'd you make the switch from like Disney over to Sundance since they're two like totally different companies, kind of?
That's exactly the reason I did it. And honestly, I worked for Disney right after I graduated college. So I was there for 26 years and it was just time. You just kind of go, I've done so many incredible projects. I want something different. I want something new. Sundance, they're based on storytelling, just like Disney is. But what I love about Sundance is how the focus is on the artist and the mess and getting the viewpoints out of artists that may not be popular, but their voices, every voice is heard. It doesn't get lost in the major motion picture messaging that has to apply to so many people. I love the fact, I feel like my heart gets more filled here at Sundance because I feel like I can make a little bit more of a difference. I've been making a difference every day to thousands of people at Disney every single day because they watch a show, they cheer, they put a smile on their face. But when it comes time to making an impact after they leave my show, I may have made a difference, but here is really where, and it really, I love the fact that they recognize humans, no matter who the humans are. And not that Disney didn't. I want to make that clear. That's a big piece of what Disney does, but it's real. It feels more real at Sundance, where Disney is this fantasy world. And again, it was great to be there. I loved it. But it was just time. I needed to change. We all do. Did you have a question?
Yeah. What is your biggest takeaway? Like, how do you create magic in everyday scenarios?
Honestly,
Like, right? Because that's our specialty.
I think honestly, magic is such an interesting word. It just makes it feel like it's unattainable unless it's a special occasion. But I think what's important is that you have to be positive. And I know it's really hard in today's world sometimes, but you have to realize that you are a part of a process and you can affect the change in your life. You can affect the way people react to you. You can affect all of that. And your heart is such a beautiful organ that it can also make a difference in other people's lives. And I think that's really where the magic is. Disney does a really good job of finding out what those heartstrings are, which makes it magic. But I think also on the Sundance, and even in real life, that the heart, if you don't have the heart, if you don't have the passion, if you don't believe in what you do, that's where the magic really is, honestly.
Great point.
Yeah, no worries.
And I just wanted to say, I read your LinkedIn. What is this thing with you got asked to see Hawkins?
No, oh, okay, so this actually happened last Sunday. I had a ring at my door. And I open the door and I see a car drive away and I look down and it's an invitation to a Sadie Hawkins dance. And I don't have any high school people in my, yeah, that was me. I don't have any high school, junior age people in my house.
Did you find
Did
you find the guy?
No, but it went so viral that I was on television. I had articles And Inside Edition called me yesterday. It's been insane and crazy, and it's still haven't found her name's Katie.
You should go. You should go to Sadie Hawkins. And with a sign that's like,
Have Sadie Hawkins dance in the next 2 months.
You'd think some parent would have seen it.
Honestly, here's where I think we are with the whole Katie thing. I think she might be overwhelmed with all the attention. And honestly, this is where my heart comes in. My heart is full as long as she knows she got the wrong house. And because at that point, she can ask the person again. Her heart isn't broken because
they're
somebody
like,
goes to
copied this off of that thing on social media. She's like, oh my God.
And I've had a couple of Katie's respond on the viral things, and I'm like, "Are you Katie?" And they're like, "No, I'm like 30 some." And I was okay. But no, that's been my adventure in the last week.
I also wanted to say I saw your job posting, and everybody was really recommending like what a good person you are to work under. And having listened to you talk for an hour, your enthusiasm is just like so contagious. So thank you so much.
You.
Yeah, you seem like you definitely have the good part.
Oh, that's where it all is.
Yeah.
It's right there.